Go big or go home.
Welcome into another episode of
Go Big.
Go Big.
Oh,
You messed that up, Zora. You
messed
say
it
go
up.
big. We say go home.
Oh, you're right.
You were setting us up for failure.
My
Dude,
gosh.
not locked in. Is that how the show is going to go today? Okay. Welcome to another episode of Go Big
Or go
Or
home.
go home.
There we go.
I'm Zora Stephenson. She's Meghan McKeown. He's Robbie Hummel. We are all in on the Big Ten at this point. Basketball specifically. Let's get a lay of the land. What games did you all cover this week, Robbie?
Oh, I don't even know if I was at Ohio State for Ohio State, Indiana. Indiana, big comeback. I was at Michigan. They beat Wisconsin. That was crazy.
I mean, that was big.
I feel like I was somewhere else too, but I at this point don't remember.
You were in studio last night because I was in studio last night and I saw you in studio.
I was in studio last night and I was also at I was at Illinois on Sunday.
There you go.
That's how you know. You can't even remember.
They played Nebraska. I had to literally look it up.
My goodness. Meghan, you.
Monday, I had Purdue, Illinois. Tuesday, I had Maryland, Rutgers. Thursday, I was in studio, and we had a bunch of games on Peacock last night. And now I'm headed. We got Michigan State, Penn State on Sunday. But before then, I got a Big East game I'm throwing in there because why not?
Dude, me too. I'm doing
There we
Big
go.
East game tomorrow. Sweet. There we go.
Who are you doing?
Xavier and Creighton in Cincinnati tomorrow.
I've got Marquette and Villanova.
All right, so some Big East
There we
flavor
go.
for the
Big
Big
East
Ten
flavor.
this week.
Mix it
There
up.
you go.
Hoops is hoops. Meghan, did you say Ohio State, Michigan State? That's gonna be a good game.
It's going to be a great game. Michigan State played fabulous against Indiana last night. Just proving to me that they're the fourth best team in this league. They deserve to have a double bye headed into the Big Ten tournament at this point in time. Indiana is one of the hardest places to play. I can attest to it on the women's side. Robbie can attest to it on the men's side. It's loud in there. And they sustained so many of Indiana's runs. Ultimately, the Hoosiers come out winning that game, but I'm high on Sparty right now.
Yeah, you've been that way for a minute. I was at Minnesota last night, Ohio State, doing Buckeye things, keep on rolling. So nothing's changed there. Fifth ranked team in the country. We're going to do some updates for folks that are not in the know on how things will go next season. So, of course, everything right now is set in stone for the Big Ten tournament. Both men and women will be in Minneapolis in March. Very exciting stuff. Next year, with the addition of the 4 teams on the West Coast, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, not every team is going to make the tournament. So now we know you're in that bottom 4 right now. You still get to go to the tournament. You don't get a bye. But you've got a shot at it. Now conference play is going to be even more important. Robbie, how does this affect things?
Well, we have not seen a winner, at least on the men's side, and I'm guessing the women's side this is the same thing. Anyone that's played on Wednesday has never actually won the tournament, just because you'd have to play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So five games in 5 days would be a challenge. This does add some intrigue, I think, to the regular season, just because now you do have teams that are fighting for their tournament and postseason lives. And we've always had the mantra in the Big Ten tournament, well, anyone can win, right? Like anyone can still make that magical run and make the NCAA tournament. Whereas now, if you are one of the bottom teams that doesn't get in, that's not necessarily the case. So I think that it does add another storyline. You can watch like, hey, who has a chance to make the Big Ten tournament? Who doesn't? That's something to talk about. But when you look at the reality of it, it's not like we've had Wednesday teams making runs all the way there. Ohio State got close last year. They made the semi, but you could tell by Saturday they played Purdue and they were just gassed. So it does give us something to talk about though. So I understand, like if we had Tuesday to Sunday, that's a long tournament right there.
But Meghan, what about the teams that are trying to get into like the WNIT, the NIT, and you don't even make your conference tournament? You're trying to go to a postseason. How does that come into play?
There's 2 sides to this. The one, of course, being that teams that play on Tuesday or Wednesday likely are not going to have the energy it takes to sustain winning the whole entire tournament. there is still that magic of March where, okay, the calendar turns over. You still have a chance to go to the tournament if you win your conference tournament. And to me, that's what makes March so special. Even if it's likely not going to happen, you still got a possibility that it's there. And it does motivate some teams to maybe pick up a couple of wins and maybe become a part of the conversation for the WNIT or the WBIT this year that's been added on the women's side. But ultimately, again, the teams that are in the bottom of the league starting to play early on in the conference tournament likely aren't even going to make it. But we're in a weird time of college basketball because a lot of teams are taking longer to come together. You want to be playing your best basketball in the month of February going into March. We've seen it all across the board, though. With the transfer portal being the way it is and you're bringing players in, it takes longer to build that chemistry and get that flow going. So I'm curious over the course of the next couple of years, like teams that should be maybe, you know, in that middle of the pack, if they fall back because they had so many transfers come in and they just haven't found time to click yet and it's too late by the time they do, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out.
That's a great point. And that's on coaches to try and figure out how many transfers is worth it and is it going to mess up the flow and all that kind of stuff. Not that they need any more on their plate with how things are going these days. The other wrinkle too is that with more teams, but the conference games are staying the same, 20 for the men, 18 for the women. So you may have a scenario where you're not going to play every single team every season because they still want to keep some of those rivalries. They want to have a home and away. Robbie, like what happens if you don't get to play USC or, you know, I'm just throwing a name out there.
No, that's a very valid question. You know, the schedules are no longer balanced and they haven't been since really like me and Megan were both playing. So when the Big Ten was back at 11 teams and there were only a couple teams you didn't play twice. Well, now we've certainly added way more. And I think that more so this calls into question like Big Ten championships. I think that schedules are going to play a large part in that. You know, who are you playing twice? Who are you not playing on the road? I also look at all conference teams. Now that we've added all these new teams, is it appropriate to have first team all Big Ten only be 5 guys? Or should that move to 7 or 8? Or should it even move to 10? Now that there's, what we have 18 teams now? Is that right? Yeah, 18 teams in the Big Ten. So I think that call is called into question. You know, it's just going to be, there's going to be some adjustments here. But I do think that it does kind of change some of the things that we've looked at as normal now are going to have to be looked at a little bit differently or through a different lens.
That's a great point on the all conference teams. And I know previously on an episode, we talked about like freshman of the year, but maybe like a newcomer of the year. So a lot of different facets that people that get paid the big bucks have to figure out. Okay. Now we have a record on our hands in this league. Okay. Caitlin Clark, 39 points away as of today, February 9th around noon. I put the timestamp because if anyone could score, even when a game is not going on, it's Caitlin Clark. So
hold on. Are you two putting the hex on her? She can score 37 or 38 this weekend, but no more, or only 37, right? Because there are two people that have a lot on the line for those points in this podcast.
Full disclosure, Megan and I are set to call Michigan at Michigan at Iowa on Thursday. Now, Caitlin Clark, we talked about, is 39 points away. She averages 32. But yeah, like Robbie, if you get to like 32, 35, you might as well just get the record. Well, we, of course, selfishly, like we would love to be there.
But doesn't she want to get the record at home?
Yeah.
Well, you can't.
A lot of variables here.
I'm just saying. And I mean, look, if you're going to, as Lisa Bluter said after the game, our goal is to win at Nebraska. That's first and foremost. So whatever it takes to win at Nebraska, we're going to try to do. If that's Caitlin Clark putting up 39 points or 38 points, whatever it takes, that's their mindset headed into it. It's incredible what we're watching right now. You know, she's doing this at such a fast pace within, you know, the standard time frame, which is what's really cool that we're seeing her do. And before you know it, she's going to possibly break Pistol Pete's record as well. But look, Kelsey Plum was one of the greatest scorers we had seen in a long time when it comes to her ability to score in bunches, be a true 3-level scorer, however you want to put it. And Clark's kind of elevated that and certainly made a name for herself. We talk about the Steph Curry effect all the time in the NBA, and Clark's certainly done that on the women's side, just with her ability to consistently hit those long-range threes that make the game so exciting to watch.
I have a question for you guys, first of all, before we move on. So, and you two might be biased because you obviously want to get to call a moment like that, and it is a special moment in not just women's college basketball, but all of college basketball. Is it anticlimactic compared to, let's say that when she plays this weekend, she goes for like 45 and breaks the record, and it's just this incredible performance compared to if she goes for 37 and then on point number 4, you're like, well, that's the record. She'll probably score another 20. You know what I mean? Like, whereas if she gets it in this one game, but it's one of those things too, where I'm sure both of you guys want to see the moment for your guys' game.
Yeah, like take our point out of it. Take the fact that we're assigned to it out of it. I was thinking back to LeBron, and I think he had 30 something to score before he passed Kareem. And it was like the lead up, the entire game, it was the lead up to it. And so I agree with you. Of course, it makes for a better story. But with Caitlin Clark, for it to be out of her norm, it's got to be like 50 something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, and
all right, here's what she needs. She needs at Nebraska 25 and like 20 assists. It's one of those games where they're like just loading up. They're going to make her pass. That's what you guys need so that she can have a game.
That's what happened last night.
That's
happened
true.
Against
That's
Penn
what they did.
State. Yeah.
Yep.
Now
that needs to be the game plan for the Cornhuskers.
I mean, Hannah Stolke.
Yeah, but can we have a moment for Hannah
Take a moment.
Yeah.
Take a moment.
I just finished calling Minnesota, Ohio State. Of course, I was keeping up with Penn State, Iowa for personal reasons, aka to see where Caitlin was and see if she was just gonna break the record in one night. And I look at the box, I'm like, at that point, Hannah Stolke had 30 something. I'm like, oh, it's a Hannah night. And I get back to the hotel, turn it on, and she ends with 47.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I was like, were they
She's great.
I asked Megan, I'm like, Megan, like, were they just not focused on her? I guess it's like a pick your poison and you want other people besides Caitlin to beat you. But
I don't care, though. 40 is 40. Like there's 40. The number of players that have scored 40 points in a college or even high school like varsity game is like that's the 99.9 percentile of players.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, unbelievable from the field. Shout out and for her to be able to do that at home. And she's such a sweet personality. For some context here, Kelsey Plum scored 57 points to break the record.
Now that's exciting.
That was yeah.
That would be impressive to see.
Yeah, that's exciting. 57? Wow.
Yeah.
She's a bucket.
One thing too that's different with Caitlin to me compared to a lot of other players is her ability to create for everyone else. Like if you look at some of the players like Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum, their assists weren't what Caitlin Clark's are. I do want to be clear though, we can build up Caitlin Clark and honor those who came before her, right? Like this is not the first time we've seen a generational talent. Every single iteration of women's basketball has that person. Candace Parker, Maya Moore, Cheryl Swoops. The list goes on. And so
Skylar Diggins.
Yes. Like all I wanted was the Skylar Diggins headband.
I know.
Yeah. So there's been players that have been able to do the same things that Caitlin is doing. Obviously, her numbers are incredible and all the accolades that she's getting. But I just want to make sure we're not forgetting the past. Robbie, how do you think this, or even Megan, you can jump in. How do you think what Caitlin is doing changes basketball?
Well, I think it's for all the little girls and even little boys that are at home watching this, right? Like she's on national commercials. She's in State Farm ads with, superstars that are NBA players, that are famous commercial actors that I forget what the State Farm guy, Jake from State Farm. Like she's with him, like that's something where you look at that and you're like, she's the most famous college athlete that we have. Football, men's basketball, women's basketball, name your sport. She is the most famous athlete that we have at the collegiate level. But I think that, I think the dream team is an interesting case study for when you have greatness together. And now look at all the great European players that are now flooding the NBA. I look at that for women's sports, where these little girls get to watch Caitlin Clark and see what she's doing, see how she's playing, see the influence she has. She's like, I mean, there are rare athletes that sell out road arenas. Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, LeBron James. Caitlin Clark is one of those athletes. She sells out arenas. And I just think the impact that she has had on the women's game, on college hoops in general, it won't go away whether she comes back for another year or not. If she's gone next year, we will still feel Caitlin Clark's impact for years to come.
Well said, Robbie.
That was really well said. I agree completely with that. And I think it's important to note, Zora, I'm glad you brought up how we've seen great college players before on the women's side. The biggest difference is Caitlin Clark is doing this in the age of social media, being the way that it is. I go on my Twitter, my Instagram, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to move my phone here. It does not even matter. She's everywhere on our timelines because of how we get our information nowadays. So I think it's a huge reason as to why she has blown up the way she has. But nonetheless, I mean, what she's doing is unprecedented. It's exciting. It's bringing eyes to the women's game. And I hope that it will ultimately keep eyes on the women's game as we move forward.
The average ticket price for an Iowa away game, $108.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fans are traveling on average 140 miles, around 140 miles to see Caitlin Clark.
Megan, is it true that there was $1,000 floor seats at Northwestern? I heard
That's what they said. That's what they said.
That's amazing.
I had people hitting me up for tickets, and I was like, I can't get you tickets.
Dad, come on, hook my friends
oh
up.
my gosh. Well, I will say, and there's so many great things that are coming with it, but I also think people need to understand, like with the Big Ten Conference, folks, these coaches have been coaching a long time. They've played in really big games that have nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Yeah, she's a great player, and it's a huge game, but for the media to be asking some of these legendary coaches if this is the biggest game they've ever coached in, I'm going to tell you it's a stupid question. Brenda Fries has won a national championship. We'll go down the list. Joe McEwen's been to Elite Eights.
Period.
This is not the biggest game they've ever coached in.
Yeah, agreed. We will see what happens if and when she breaks it. Either way, we'll be watching, Megan, either in person.
We will be.
Yeah.
or on an airplane, whatever time that game is.
Great. Speaking of this weekend, in addition to Caitlin Clark having the opportunity to break the Division I all-time scoring record, there's this other game happening on a field in Vegas. A lot of people are gathering for it. It's called the Super Bowl. Are you all big? Do you have a pick? Do we have a pick? Kansas City 49ers. Where are we at?
I'm a Taylor Swift fan. Of course, I'm going with the Chiefs. Enough said. I'll keep it there.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs too. I just feel like they're kind of like a team of destiny that's playing for some real history here. And that you have the Taylor Swift, the Swifties angle as well. And Mahomes, I just think, Brock Purdy's a good game managing quarterback, but Mahomes is a special talent. Yeah.
I think you've got great stories on either side. You see, I don't have a dog in the fight. Mahomes and what the Chiefs are doing, it's for a dynasty, right, Robbie? And then Brock Purdy, it's like, what a great story that would be. Yep. So we'll see. Either way, I will have wings in hand, and the TV will be on, and it will be turned all the way up at halftime.
Yes. So excited for Usher.
Yep.
I love Usher.
Okay, I just need him to play the classics. I know he's got.
I think he will. I think he will.
On tour, we want the hits.
I think these artists know where their bread is buttered, and this is the biggest stage. Like look at last year; it was all hits. I'd be shocked if he came out and played because his catalog is phenomenal. You can put Usher up against a lot of artists.
He's got to do "You Remind Me." He's got to do "You Got It Bad." Please do "You Got It Bad."
Do Confessions make it in here?
I hope so.
I hope so too. I hope "Loving This Club" makes it in here too, because "Loving This Club" is a jam.
So there's so many other ones I would like, but I feel like they're maybe too much of a deep track, like "Nice and Slow." He's not going to play, right?
Maybe not. We don't want a remake of what. He will take his shirt off though.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes.
That's got to be a prop bet, right? I would think that's a guaranteed prop bet.
It has to be a prop bet.
But I don't know if the NFL is, trying to keep it a certain rating.
PG. But here's my other. Well, yeah.
It was like a nightclub scene. like a very and I'm being conservative when I say a nightclub scene. It was like,
Sure.
The stage was set. So,
Next level.
Yeah.
Goodness. I'm so excited. I love him. It's going to be great.
It'll be fun. Any last words on Caitlin, on the Big Ten, or on the Super Bowl before we say goodbye to the people?
I think we've covered it all.
We
Hopefully for a good week of games here. We've had actually the Big Ten has had great games over the last 2 weeks. So hopefully that continues.
All right. Good luck with what you all have next, and we will reconvene in 7 days. This is Go Big
Or go home.
Go home.
Go big or go home.